Welcome to the Greater Culture Podcast, where we have conversations about how to elevate the quality of life through movement, nutrition, recovery, and mindset practices. And welcome to another episode of the Greater Culture Podcast. Your host, Brad Marshall. Today, I am joined by Dr. Michael Tancini of Ground to Overhead Physical Therapy. And I'm really excited to jump into the conversations today to learn a little bit more about how he became a physical therapist, how he's come to help a variety of athletes and folks over the years, and how he thinks about movement, health, fitness, and quality of life. So, Doctor, thanks so much for taking some time today.
Brad, man, thank you so much for having me. It's truly an honor, and watching everything that you've been doing down there at the gym, and just I'm always impressed with how you personally, like, always, push to be a better person. Not only as a coach, but as a person and in all aspects of life. So, man, it's super cool to chat with you here.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that. I think it's one of the reasons why you and I have clicked over the years as we've worked together. I've been a client of Tank's for a number of years, and he's helped me through a variety of injuries or things that have popped up. And we really click when it comes to talking about health and wellness and movement. And so I wanted to give him the opportunity to share a little bit about his background and his story. And so, Tank, tell us a little bit about what got you interested in the field of movement and getting on the path to becoming a physical therapist?
Awesome, man. Well, this all started, I would say, back really as I was getting out of baseball. And so in a previous life, I played collegiate baseball, and baseball was my thing growing up. And from the age of 14 on was when I really started training pretty serious uh, when it comes to strength and conditioning and speed and agility training and all those things. And I was training for the purpose of playing at the next level. And so through high school, I excelled in baseball. I earned a scholarship, and by about that time, I was actually getting a little bit burnt out of baseball because I'd put all my eggs in that basket. And so training at that point was just for being better at baseball. But into my sophomore year of college was when I really figured out, like, hey, like, I'm pretty tired of playing. Like, I it was sad, man. It was like the first time in my life that I didn't want to be at the baseball field, and like I would rather be elsewhere. And going to practice and going to games, like, it just wasn't fun. So I was going through a lot of uh, anxiety. Like, I didn't want to be there. I didn't drink or party and all that stuff. So, like, I didn't always connect with a lot of the kids on the team, a lot of the other guys, because I wasn't into the same things as they were. And I remember I lived in this apartment complex, and I would finish up practice. I'd eat some dinner, and then I would walk across the parking lot to the uh, apartment complex gym, because working out made me feel better. And so I would just go in there and use it to clear my mind. Just throw in the headphones back in the you were always wired in days,
Mm-hmm.
and just not do anything crazy, but just go in there and move, and it made me feel better. Um, so from there, I got out of baseball, found CrossFit when I transferred up the UNC Chapel Hill, and where I did my undergrad at, and found a local CrossFit gym, and that was history with that, man. And I just continued to keep working out and you know working on just being a better person because it made me feel good. I didn't have any competition goals. I was actually super burnt out from the competitive aspect of I guess, sport, if you want to say that. At that time, like I didn't even want to look at a baseball, which is also sad to, a good life lesson for me personally. And then I remember, man, it was the fall of 2010, right after I started. The head coach and the owner of the gym was like, "Hey, like there's this CrossFit competition thing. It'd be right up your alley." I was like, "Nah, man, we're we're good." Like I have no desire for that. And then I did the Open, in the first year of the Open in 2011, uh, and that really sparked my interest. And then I watched the games that year, and they did this like, what was it, soft sand run, essentially a soft sand run version of Murph. And I thought that was super cool, and I was like, man, I think it'd be awesome to get there. And so like that's what sparked me into competition, and then moved into competition, started getting into CrossFit more. Really got my interest sparked by the CrossFit Games in 2011, and you know, working out was something that and moving was just a way of life. Like, I mean, I didn't start moving because of the CrossFit Games. I didn't start working out because I wanted to be some athlete in the CrossFit space or in any kind of space. It was just it made me feel good. It made me happier. I really clicked with the people at the gym, even though they were all at that time significantly older than me. It was just like go to the gym, hang out with really cool people who the values are all in tune with each other. Um, and you like being at the gym all day and working out, and there's a sport that you can just kind of go into because you like doing it. Sweet, I'll do it. And so I got into the CrossFit space and the competitive CrossFit space, and right about that time was when I realized I wanted to be a physical therapist. And previous to that, I had this idea that I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon, and I shadowed an orthopedic surgeon and realized it wasn't what I wanted to actually do. And but I knew I still wanted to be in like the movement space, you know, helping people through moving their body and becoming a better person, not only physically but also how it can benefit someone, mentally, emotionally, community wise, all the benefits that I'd seen at that point. And there's this guy by the name of, if you've never heard his name before, you're under a rock and not listening to anything. But Dr. Kelly, I'm a star ant. He was one of the first CrossFit gyms in the world, founder of Mobility Wad, now the Ready State. And he was the first one on YouTube, kind of like posting things. And I saw his YouTube videos. I saw the original Supple Leopard book, and I said, okay, whatever he's doing, I really want to do because it looked awesome. It was a way for me to help my friends in the gym and help my friends in the fitness space overcome different kinds of injuries so that they could continue to better themselves as humans and continue to stay around their friend group and continue to chase their goals and maintain that keystone of their life, which is movement, which, as you know, like when someone's in the gym moving, they feel better, they're happier, they all of a sudden eat better, which then also makes them better. They maybe don't drink as much. They, focus on sleep a little bit more. And then, it's just this snowball that just rolls and helps someone build and become a better version of themselves over time. And so, that sparked me into physical therapy school. Got into Campbell, which is just south of Raleigh, and did my doctorate down there. And after graduating from UNC Chapel Hill with a exercise and sports science degree, at that time I was coaching CrossFit. So, and let's see, I coached all the way through PT school with the goal of actually starting my practice. So I remember I was shadowing, uh, leading, like I hadn't even gotten into school yet. And this PT asked me what I wanted to do. I said I wanted to start my own practice. And then because I knew what Kelly was doing, I wasn't going to find. And so because we're able to, and I'm able to work with people in a very different way than the traditional style, quote unquote, physical therapy, which is as broad and random, when you think about the name as you can even imagine. And so I went through school, and right off the bat, I was trying to blend together what I was learning in school, but also I'm a huge just strength and conditioning nerd. And so diving into Olympic weightlifting and running and uh, energy system work and, you know, mobility, but mobility in a sense of like position is, and like looking into, okay, like if we're in better positions, then um, we can provide more than a band-aid. We can actually help someone uh, create longevity and perform at a high level over time. Because you and I both know that, telling someone to stop squatting or deadlifting, it's a bunch of garbage. And like as soon as we can't get up off the ground and do a burpee and get up out of a chair, then we're in a nursing home, and our quality of life is significantly worse. Right? As soon as we can't do a step up, we're a fall risk. And so like and that all starts with helping to help people essentially in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, uh, to help them build the foundation, help them fix these problems, which if they solved early, they could then, one, stay in the gym, live a higher quality of life, have less pain, and feel better on a daily basis, but then also have a higher quality of life with longevity over time, so that in the last decade of their life, they're not stuck in a nursing home. They can actually spend it living it the way that they want to. And so yeah, so I got out at that time. I was being coached by CJ Martin and Kino over at CrossFit Invictus. I was one of their individual athletes, and he was opening up a new location out there and asked if I wanted to come out and start my practice. And I said, absolutely. Me and my wife moved across country from, from the here in the Triangle, out of San Diego. I started my practice out there, and then I quickly realized, like, CJ and all, they're all great people over there. But being over 2,000 away or 2,000 miles away from my family, and just what me in like the setting that me and my wife wanted to be in to raise a family, we just knew it wasn't going to happen there. And so at the end of our lease, we moved on back and, you know, started my first location up here in Chapel Hill, and then, expanded to a second location in Cary, and now I've grown to a few team members, and, just working on essentially helping the active individual, fix their problems fast and then set them up so that they don't have to deal with it again in the future. And not only physically, but as you know, we do work with a lot of people on just a monthly basis, and it goes way further than just physical, right? It's stress management. It's navigating sleep. It's talking about helping someone block their schedule so that they can have a higher quality of life, so they're able to get their workouts in while they get to spend time with their family, while they can get their work done, or guiding someone through, some like basic nutritional principles, so that they can get on a better track, so that they start one feeling better. Food affects the way you feel. Go figure. Um, and and then being able to kind of work with people on a very holistic aspect, um, as well as partner and work alongside people like yourself, and who you guys are the first responders of the healthcare system, right? So, and I mean, people need to be inside a greater culture, or gyms across the nation, because it's showing up every day, having that community, right? So like having a place to go to that's safe. They can, make a really good friend group. They support them in their goals, right? There's coaches to help guide them, make sure that they're moving well, right? And it really helps create a nice ecosystem and a nice support system, so that people can then live a high quality of life and continue to live that high quality of life for the years moving forward. So, man, that's kind of how I've got to where I'm at right now. So,
Yeah, it's amazing how you've been able to blend some of the passions that you have for things like movement and sport and competition, and take that and find a career path that allows you to bring all of those capacities together in the form of physical therapy, but then expanding that beyond and helping people with nutrition and mindset and stress. Because as you probably have seen in your own life, of those things matter and they make a huge difference. One of the things I'd be curious of from your experiences, you mentioned that you were a baseball player and then got into the CrossFit space and got competitive there. I know you've done a few other physical different challenges and ways you like to move your body. So talk to us a little bit about how you have expressed movement or fitness over your lifetime, and if that's changed at all, how you think about movement and how important it is, or different ways in which folks can move their body. Because I know you're preparing for an upcoming half Ironman, and you've done some other movement pieces. So talk to us a little bit about that perspective of what movements look like for you over the years, and if it's changed how you think about working with others in the way that they like to move.
man, yeah. So movement's one of those things that it's unfortunate that people try and own it, right? So like different kind of call them companies or call it different niches try and own movement, but when we look at the end of the day, it's like movement's movement, right? Human movement's human movement, right? And I guess it's where we direct the goal behind the movement, which then gives it some of its characteristics and the outcomes. But um, initially, like movement, like it's just it started just made me feel good, right? Um, I probably didn't move with great form, as most of us early on do, and uh, but I knew it made me feel better. And I remember pre CrossFit, my previous job to PT school, and the only job I had all the way through high school and college, was actually I worked at Harris Teeter, and
Mm.
so I was a cashier and bagger. Um, and dude, I worked there for years, and it was an awesome job. I worked at different stores, and that isn't for this conversation here, but that actually played a huge role in teaching me how to talk to people and getting to know people fast, because I had to make people feel welcome at home, so they came back to the store. Um, but I had this lady, Amanda Hodges. She listens to this. It'd be cool. But she's now a friend of mine, and I would be at the UScan counter, and I'd print out, or I'd like unroll the my receipt, and I'd tear it off, and I would jot out my workout for the day, and like I would because I would go to the YMCA immediately after, and I'd go do my like bodybuilding stuff. So like I was like writing down my workouts for the day. And this lady, man, she'd always come in, and she was super, super cool. But every time she came in, she's like, yeah, there's a CrossFit gym right down the road, CrossFit Vitality. Uh, you need to come check it out. And I was like, nah, I'm good. Thanks, but I just do more so like traditional bodybuilding at the gym. I wasn't a bodybuilder, but like the back and bi split and yeah, all that stuff. Had zero aspirations of bodybuilding, but just like the traditional style. Uh, so it's funny that years later, it's been a keystone of who I am now. And but so at that time, movement just made me feel good. And then as I've evolved and as I got into CrossFit, it really opened my eyes to all the different aspects of movement, right? So it opened my aspect to gymnastics. It opened my eyes to um, Olympic weightlifting. But so I cleaned and snatched previously for baseball, but like I didn't really understand uh, the sport or the history in back of it. And getting into the competitive side of CrossFit, I was like, I got to be good at this Olympic weightlifting thing. And so I started really nerding out. Started, reading Greg Everett's book and really nerding out on the different positions and how we could use the positions to then drive power to then gain strength, right? So that we could perform at this higher level. At this point, like it wasn't about I wasn't thinking about longevity. It was just like how can I perform the absolute best by moving the best I can. Um, and that's around the time that like CrossFit endurance was, going on. And, I started looking at the pose method. And for running, I started looking at these different kinds of interval trainings and taking what I was learning in exercise and sports science, my ex-phys classes, creating these different work to rest ratios, working on these different energy systems, um, and then utilizing that to actually so that I learned it better, but so I could perform in my sport because I was programming for myself all the way through this. Um, so when I started learning from Kelly and the content he was putting out, that was the first time I really started thinking about like, oh, okay, like I've had some of these problems, and they probably could have been prevented just by better positions, right? And being able to learn how to take care of my body on a day-to-day basis, move a little bit better, um, so that I could perform better, right? But also so I would feel better. Um, and so I started paying attention, a little bit more attention to the way that I moved. Um, really started geeking out, on efficiency of movement and all those little things, which when you move better, you then perform better in the sport of CrossFit. Because you make the individual task that you're doing easier and more energy efficient. But at the same time, right, like I was then unloading my body so my knees didn't hurt as much, right? So my elbows didn't hurt as much. Um, and then, yeah, then, taking it into PT school and then meshing it with everything we were learning there, of like the orthokinematics of the joints and like all the the in-depth anatomy and uh, what we were doing through all the the physiological subsystems uh, and really starting to look through human potential and let's say health health and wellness of like helping people through pain through this lens of well, hey, like what we should, like what we teach should be then we should be able to extrapolate it up and down the spectrum, right? Movement's movement. So like what's gonna help someone who's in their 70s be able to function better, who has no desire to do anything physical in their life, learning these things we're learning in PT school, because that's fortunately there's a huge gap in PT school education. But meshing that with like looking at someone like myself when I started in their early 20s or late teens, where like the same principles of squatting and hinging and single leg strength and balance and uh, mechanics through gait, all these things were then being able to, if what's good for the athlete is also going to be good for the person who wouldn't consider themselves an athlete, just in feeling better. So I started looking at movement as more as like a spectrum. Um, and then started looking at, okay, like different implements of movement and how can we create certain outcomes based on the implements and the strategies in which we loaded someone, right? So like bringing in things like kettlebells and dumbbells and weird objects, sandbags, sleds, all these things we were using in the performance space. Uh, so like, how can I transfer that into more of a clinical population? Like one of the coolest things, man. Like one of my last rotations was in a skilled nursing facility, and if anyone has been in the CrossFit space or like has really dove into like powerlifting. So I've never competed in the sport of powerlifting, but I'm definitely nerding out in it. Like Louis Simmons using bands and chains and uh, things of that nature, or different kinds of like dynamic efforts. And I was in a nursing home, and we were using bands, as a way to, help these old people, for lack of better words. I mean, they were 85, 90, just want to be able to walk across the room. And we were using bands to help them generate a little bit more strength, right? And like all these implements that I was using on a performance aspect and transferring it more over to the clinical population. I knew I didn't want to work in that setting, but it was, like it was that was just how I thought of movement, right? It was uh, I, the cookie cutter, uh, watered down exercises that have been traditionally carried out through the world of physical therapy are a huge disservice to the people that we work with, right? And movement should be goal directed, right? We should be able to use these different strength and conditioning principles and movement patterns and all these things to help people generate a higher work capacity in their life. And by creating a higher work capacity, then they're able to not only feel better, move better, but then get more out of life, so that when they, say in my time when I was working with people in a nursing home, so when they have to walk across the room, it isn't a max effort type deal, right? Or after that, I went on to work as an intern down with the military, and with them, being able to make sure like what they did, like to make sure they had the capacity to essentially stay healthy when they're overseas, taking care of our country, um, right? But also so that they've got the capacity that if they're in battle and they've got to pick up one of their uh, teammates, right, and carry them out because their teammate's been shot in the leg, right? That they're able to do so because they've got the capacity in order to do that. And so that's how I think about movement, right? It's about in a roundabout way helping someone build capacity uh, wholly throughout the body, and specifically in the patterns and in the task which they need in order to get their job done, right? But live the highest functional uh, life that they possibly can, whether that's um, like we work with our practice now, it's mainly fitness athletes, right? So not only so that they can perform at a high level in the gym, right? But every single one of our athletes wants to have a life outside the gym too. So being able to make sure someone is capable of, going out and doing a hike with their buddies on a Saturday, or making sure that they don't blow up their back as they're trying to move a couch, helping their buddies move, or um, you know, I've got a guy that I work with. I've been working with him for years. I love this guy. He has two twin little girls, and he's in his 60s, and like his girls just turned 8, and they're twins. And I mean, let's be real. Like he's got to be functional and perform at a high level for a long time for those two girls. Um, so I don't know. I feel I kind of got a little bit off kilter with that answer, but that's how I think about movement, right? And then is it's just it should be directed towards making our lives better,
Mhm.
and that's how I think about helping people.
Yeah.
And so where sport has come in with that um, is, I wanted to perform at a high level. So because I was competing in the sport of CrossFit in about a decade ago, I was a 3-time individual regional competitor at the time in the sport of CrossFit, and competed once as a team member of CrossFit uh, Invictus out in San Diego. Um, uh, when I kind of stepped away from the CrossFit competition aspect, it was more so I'll start my practice, and I just got married, and it just wasn't where I was at headspace wise, and movement at that point went back to just once again a sole focus on making me feel better, and then CrossFit then led me into all these different aspects. So from getting into running and getting into now some triathlons, and I've had the opportunity now this will be my 5th out of 6 years lifting at the North American Open Finals for the sport of weightlifting. And in 8 days, I'll be doing my second half Ironman. So it's, taking the idea of wanting to be decent across the board, right? And challenge myself physically, just in these different things, while I'm able to not necessarily specialize in anything. Um, and by doing that, it's then, as I kind of geek out on these different areas, it then helps me learn how to treat my clients better. Because it gives me firsthand insight on what it's like to run a half marathon after a 56-mile bike ride, right? Or
Mhm.
some of the ins and outs that uh, you wouldn't think you'd have to deal with, but you do have to deal with. And on top of that, it essentially kind of feeds into my, I guess, the founding reason on why I began moving like I do in the first place, and that's more the mental piece, like the mental, psychological aspects, and getting into this idea of doing hard things, right? So challenging yourself in a certain way every single day, and having these things that you're working towards that somewhat scare you, right? And push you outside that comfort zone. Knowing that by doing that, you then build a higher mental capacity to then take on other things in your life. So, whether that's starting a business, whether that's um, public speaking, whether that's, uh, other hard tasks. Say something breaks in the house, you're like, oh, that's not big of a deal. Like, I can I can do it, and so it just gives you a whole different psychological aspect that also helps make yourself better. And I guess all these things stem from just moving and challenging yourself physically and working on trying to be a better person physically, emotionally, mentally. They're all combined. So that answers the question. Kind of kind of went on different tangents there, but yeah. So yeah, that answered the question, Brad.
Yeah, one of the things that I love that you spoke about there is that, thinking about movement, it's an essential component to life of, can I get up and go from one place to another? Because that's going to be required. Can I go from a seated to standing position, or from the floor to a standing position? So there's an essential nature to it of like, hey, can we do the bare minimum? And once we've developed that, then it starts to become, hey, how do I continue to push that hedge of being able to move and express different positions and strength and things like that? Because it's going to help me to build the quality of life. And once you go beyond that level, then it starts to be fun of like, hey, what is my body actually capable of? So whether that's CrossFit, running, Olympic weightlifting, triathlons, tough mudders, and obstacle course races, it's like, hey, this body that I have could do some pretty cool things. And I want to see what it's capable of, because I want to challenge myself and I want to see what's possible. And all that stems from the simple concept of movement. And you highlighted as well how important movement can be to help move a lot of the other pillars in our lives. If I'm moving more consistently, maybe I'm eating more consistently in a healthy way. Maybe I'm tackling more difficult challenges in my life because I know I've got the capacity. So movement is such a powerful piece to it. And when I think about physical therapists, being the experts in how the body moves, how it's meant to move, and how you can help people get out of pain or be able to achieve some of the goals that they have, we know that that also helps to improve the quality of their life. And it's something we're really passionate about at Greater Culture. I know you are as well. And so I'd love to get your thoughts or opinions on, when you think about this concept of quality of life. We're trying to improve that for people through movement. We're trying to improve that for people maybe through how they eat, or maybe how they talk to themselves with the mental side of things. How do you think about, or how have you come to know this idea of quality of life, and whether it's yourself or how you are able to impact that in a positive direction for the clients that you work with?
So, man, when I think of quality of life, I think about being able to do what you actually want to do in life,
Mm, hmm.
right? Regardless of what that is. And I'm not saying be a world class athlete in it, right? But you should be able to do what you want to do, um, and be with the people you want to be with, and uh, be able to enjoy time with them. And so, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, it's life's short, and it would suck if we couldn't do what we actually wanted to do. And you know, when people come to us and work with people, yeah, sure, like they might be coming to us for a back issue, hip issue, but there's a bigger purpose there, right? And it's more than the absence of pain, right? It's maybe this person really needs to be able to play with their dog, right? So I worked with a guy who started coming to see me because he had knee pain and he couldn't run around. Like he was a fitness athlete, but like he wasn't able to run around and play soccer with this
Mm,
middle school dog. And someone from the outside might say, "Oh, you're in shape, wife, daughter, good job, like your quality of life's high." But for him, something was lacking, and that lacking was that physical uh, and emotional connection of being able to utilize his body to participate in forming these bonds with his daughter that he only has one time in his life to actually do. Right? So, and quality of life is essentially just like I mentioned, being able to do what you want to do when you want to do it and be able to enjoy doing
Mm.
it. And uh, through movement and through mental headspace and mental health and meditation and sleep and nutrition and physical and emotional connection with others, we're able to really foster what's important in our life. And a coach of mine and a friend of mine, um, I can't take credit for this. I stole this from him, but we have a glass ball in our lives, right? So, and that glass ball is our relationships. So, our wife, our son, our families, right? The things that if we drop, sure, I mean, the glass ball is going to shatter. And sure, we could glue it back together, but it's never going to be the same as it was prior. And we're juggling that constantly with all these other rubber balls. That if we drop it, it'll hit the ground and jump right straight back to you. And if we can't do what we want to do in life, then we're not, by terms like we're not going to have the quality of life that we're able to have. And we're not going to be able to make use of blessing, which is every day um, of our life, because we have these limitations which are preventing us from doing the things we actually want to do. And when we're not able to do those things, like then all of a sudden that glass ball uh, gets impacted, right? Because the relationships that you strive to form, whether it's with your wife or son or daughter or mom or dad, like if you can't do the things you need to do, then all of a sudden those relationships aren't as good.
Mhm.
Right? And, maybe you're not in quite as good of a mood, right? Which then impacts those relationships even more. Maybe you're not able to do your job or enjoy your job the way you want to, which then also impacts the other aspects of your life, right? So, um, living a high quality of life, is more than just being in the absence of pain. It's doing what you want to do, uh, having a high capacity. So, doing what you want to do is no longer maximal effort, so that you can be present with those around you, form good relationships with those around you, and be able to live a life that you can look back on at the end of the day and say, hey, like, I wouldn't have changed anything. Um,
Mhm.
I spent a lot of time with those I loved. I was present with them. And, at the end of the day, just say, hey, like, I would do it the same. And so I hope that makes sense. But that's quality of life to me. Just not live in the absence of pain, or
Mhm.
just not having safety, uh, just not having a good relationship with your wife. Right? It's all of the above. So
Yeah, I think something you said there that really resonates with me is it's not just the absence of pain or things going smooth and steady, but it's more than that. There's a deeper why, whether it's playing with your kid, expressing what your physical capacity can do in some fun or challenging ways, and just having the freedom to be able to say yes to all the things that life throws at you or can throw at you, because it is short and there's maybe not as many opportunities we think there will be to say yes to some of those adventures or some of those trips or some of those opportunities to play with family and friends. So whether that's, signing up for a race or being able to go golfing or play slow pitch softball, it's like, hey, these are things I want to take advantage of. I want to enjoy them. And that's going to help build the relationships I have and it lead me to feel really happy and fulfilled. And they all are interconnected here, and I think that's one of the questions we always are striving to answer, and working and learning from different professionals is what's so helpful. And so along those lines of thinking through quality of life and how important movement is, and how that allows us to say yes to these things. As a physical therapist, you see a variety of clients for all different reasons. Are there certain practices that you've come to either know or experience that are really helpful, especially maybe even on the proactive side of, hey, what are the things that I can add into my day or make sure I'm hitting so that I can improve the quality of my life? I can say yes to more that life has to offer. Maybe I'm able to avoid some of the pain that could come from moving either improperly or being sedentary. So, what are some of the things that you've seen or you've come to know as really helpful tools and skills that people can do or leverage in their day-to-day life so that they can say yes to more that life has to offer?
Man, I love that question because it all starts with being able to say yes to what life has to offer. The first thing we have to know is knowing what to say no to,
Mm.
right? And because there's so many distractions in today's world, right? We have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, if that's still a thing now. TikTok, which I have no idea about. I've never been on TikTok. Uh, so like all these, we have streaming services which you can binge watch every show on the planet and just be glued to the TV, right? All these ads and all these marketers being able to target you with every specific thing, like people wearing watches that won't stop buzzing at them and taking their attention away from the ones they're actually with. So first things first is being able to say no to the things that you know actually don't matter.
Mm.
Um, that's number one, right? Is that figuring out the priorities and put down on your calendar every day what's actually important for you. So uh, this idea goes into like what I work with a lot of people on is blocking their schedule. So I remember the first time I blocked my schedule was I was in undergrad and I showed it to my mom and dad and they made a joke and was like, "Oh, when's Audrey penciled in there?" Audrey at the time was my girlfriend. Audrey's my wife. She's amazing. Uh, you know, she keeps everything straight in our household. And but yeah, so like being able to like print out a sheet with you know 12 a.m. all the way down to 11:59 p.m. and you know put in there what matters. So put in there one sleep, right? So 8 hours of sleep every night. If you're not getting 8 hours of sleep a night, you're not doing it right. And you've got to figure out a way to get the 8 hours because that will have such a profound impact on pain, right? We know that when you're underslept, you have more pain and your stress levels are higher and you don't recover as much or as fast and as quickly. We know that it impacts your weight and your body composition, right? Impacts your mental performance, impacts your longevity. So all these things. So sleep, put sleep in first. Um, then after that, it's about putting in the things that matter to you first. So one, like put in there a time block, whether that's based on your goals, whether that's 30 minutes or 3 hours of when you're going to move for the day. So put in there, a 30-minute workout. Put in there, a run with your friends. Put in there something involving working out and movement because if you don't put it in there, then something else is going to get scheduled. Um, and then put in there, your work schedule so that you can physically see it. Put in there the time and the connection time you want to have with your wife and son. Put in there times that you're going to eat. Like we have to eat good food, so put in there times that you're going to eat. And then you quickly realize, like, okay, like I've got these blocks to get my movement and my workouts in. And what you don't see in there is sitting on the couch, binge watching Netflix, being on Instagram, running around town to do pointless tasks that you actually don't need to do. So it helps you see and streamline just right off the bat. Okay, like what's important? What are the things that I actually want to do in life, which bring me fulfillment? And what are the things that I just don't have time for, and I really don't care? Uh, so that's number one. Uh, Two, meditation, daily meditation practice, breath work. Um, this is something that's really helped me personally. Uh, it just helps me, I mean, running business is stressful. Uh, Moving across country is stressful. You know, Trying to be a high performer in different areas of life all at the same time is, you have to have your mind in that right place. So something I always preach and help my athletes through is developing some kind of journaling and meditation process. Being able to do a morning plan for the day and, write a little message to themselves, figure out who they want to be for the day. What are some challenges that might come up, which they could work to overcome, and how would they best overcome those challenges? Or, who's someone who really needs you to be on your best today? Trying to make it bigger than you personally. Doing a breath work to then dial in our focus for the day and wake us up and put us in another good headspace. And then at the end of the day, being able to turn off all the screens and, uh, you know, sit down with your journal and ask yourself, did I do what I wanted to do today? Was I the person I wanted to be today? Did I get the important things done in my life? Um, did I, connect with the people that I wanted to connect with? That challenge that I was faced to, like, how could I have responded better to it? How can I overcome that challenge so that I can live with my or live in congruence with my principles and value systems, so that I can be the best person I can be and help those around me. Um, so yeah, journaling goes right along with blocking schedule, right?
Hmm.
And then having times set out so that you can be with those that you love. Um, and my wife and son are the two most important things in my life, and like everything I do is for them. It's a shame when I see people who feel the same way about their family, but all they do is work, and they never actually get to spend time with the ones they love, right? So like, um, my favorite part of every day is having dinner with my family. Right, I sit down, have dinner with my wife and son, and it's the time when I can actually sit down and like connect with them for the day. And because I'm working, my wife works, we're running around everywhere. So notice, like all these things are things outside of like movement practices.
Hmm.
This is the foundation. Um, and then, going into different food practices, are you getting uh, your food from fruits, vegetables, and quality meats? Because if you're not, you're missing the boat. And we just need to start there. Don't start with macros. Start with, okay, like maybe you should eat some broccoli instead of the Big Mac,
Hmm.
or broccoli instead of the French fries from Chick-fil-A. Um, but movement practices, right? 10 to 15 minutes daily of just daily maintenance, whether that's working with a lacrosse ball or working with some kind of like active mobility type drill, doing some loaded eccentrics, just to work on some range of motion, doing a little bit of yoga, doing a little bit of Pilates, working on these finer aspects of different trouble areas which your life throws at you that if you just stay on top of, then you don't generate these problems that people tend to face. Then after that, man, it's just being able to, we can, one, make sure we're moving, right? It all comes back to that. But then being able to create a nice match. So between the volume and stresses in our life based on our ability to recover. And there's this idea of maximum of recoverable volume, and that's we tend to use in different kinds of strength and conditioning and endurance training, and how much training can you do and to still see a positive adaptation. Um, and being able to have this idea of understanding that, but then knowing that we have to put it in the context of life, right? So like your people aren't professional athletes for most of them, and so like they have to understand like that fight with their wife or their fight with their husband is going to affect the way that they just recovered from that nasty chipper that they did in the gym today,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or maybe that little cold that they had is going to affect the way that they recover, or the fact that their son was up in the middle of the night throwing up. Well, now that 3 hours of sleep last night is going to affect how their body feels. So being able to educate people on having this idea of like making sure that they match their volume and their intensity with the actual demands of their life. And prioritizing movement. So not saying not to move. So always go on walks. Like do these like when to step on the gas and when not to step on the gas.
Mm.
Um, that right there, man. If you're able to do those things, you sort of live a pretty good life. And I feel pretty good doing it. So.
Yeah, it's funny how you mentioned that it really does start with the ability to look at your 24 hours and block out what are those most important pieces. Hey, here's where I'm going to make sure I've got a little time to myself, whether that's meditation, journaling, breath work. Here's my movement practice because I know how important that is for my mental and my physical health. Here's where I'm going to make sure I'm eating because I know how important nutrients are to feed me and allow me to do all the things that I'm being asked to do. Here's where I'm going to make sure I'm spending quality time with family and cutting out maybe some of the technology. And then when we start to look at what those practices look like, hey, am I recovering well? Am I taking care of myself? Am I moving in a way that helps support me? So all of those pieces build this puzzle for helping that quality of life and helping people move a way that they'd like to, eat a way that they'd like to, and then get to enjoy the fruits of those labors. And so with that,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
And,
and I know we're coming to the end here, man.
mhm.
Um, and but at, at that, like, we see people once a week, once every few weeks, once a month, and like we help people feel better in the office, yes, right. But if I can teach them all these other skills, then they're going to be live a higher quality of life when they're not with me, right?
Mhm.
And that's ultimately what we want. So
100%. It's the old adage of, hey, I can, give you the fish and you have food for the day, but if I can teach you how to do this where you maybe don't need me, well, now you can feed yourself and feed your family for a lifetime. So that's something I know we're both really passionate about and trying to help others with. And so with that, Tank, I want to say thanks so much for sharing some of your thoughts and insights and your journey. For those out there who are interested in wanting to connect with you, you've got an office in Cary, you have an office in Chapel Hill. And if they want to reach out for any physical assessments on the physical therapy side or to work with you, what's the best way that folks can connect with you?
so you can connect with us through the website, so groundoverheadphysicaltherapy.com. You can send me a message through there. I'm the one that answers all the emails. Um, that's super easy way to get in touch with us. If you see our phone number, you can shoot it a text that goes straight to my phone. and I'm able to, connect with you there. On Instagram, we're at Ground to Overhead PT. We post daily to help athletes, uh, give them the tools they need to, stay healthy in their lives. So you'll see me on there. You'll see Dr. Molly and Dr. Mish, everyone on our team. You'll see our different faces on there. And then if you have any questions or anyone has any questions, like I love talking with people. Just shoot a message to me. I'll be happy just to chat and be able to help how I can, even if you never come see us. So
Yeah, well, I know I'm very grateful for all the help and support over the years of not only physically getting to move a little bit better and recover from some of the acute injuries, but also just having those conversations around how do we help others improve the quality of their life. So, Dr. Tank, thanks so much for spending some time with us on the podcast today, and I look forward to the next time we get a chance to interact in person.
awesome, man. Yeah, thank you so much. And I still need to get down there and throw down with you guys in the at the gym. So yeah.
Yeah, we're a little farther away from Chapel Hill these days, but we've got enough space in there to fit one more.
Yeah, man. It's almost an hour drive down there,
Yeah.
but hey, I'll make it down eventually.